All right, everyone. The last chapter built the foundation of intersection of climate crisis and justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Now let's dive into the explicit connections between the international education sector and climate justice, examining both past influences and future implications. We will see who has access to international education experiences, such as study abroad and international degree seeking programs. Who benefits the most from these international experiences in the light of existing research? Who is left out? And how does this connect to climate justice? As we discussed in lesson 7.5, there's a direct connection between wealth and emissions. Now let us build on that connection in the context of international education. Maps are powerful tools for storytelling, as they provide familiar points for context. At this point, we will use a series of 3 maps to illustrate our points. Here is a map that begins to show us several intersections of climate justice with international education. This first map is a wealth distribution map from the 2023 Credit Suisse Global Wealth Reports Global Wealth Data Book. Here you can see the darker countries show the average wealth of individuals in that country is more than 100,000, and the lightest is less than 5,000. I want to note, there are areas of poverty and reduced wealth in these countries in the darkest shades. Global wealth disparity is widespread, striking at the core, and as we know, even in the lighter shades countries, there are examples of extreme wealth. What you may have noticed is that dark gray countries include North America, Western Europe, Australia, and Japan. When we look at these countries from an international education lens, these are among the top destination countries for degree-seeking students. We know from Open Doors data for the year 2021 and 2022 that darker shaded countries are also those often involved in study abroad exchanges, often between each other. For example, more than 70% of the US students studying abroad for academic credit went to Europe. What this map indirectly shows is that the poorest countries, lightest shades, aren't really accessing international education. And to pull that thread even further, these lightest colors are sometimes referred to as emerging markets for potential recruitment activities. They are viewed for their ability to add value to the global North system of international education. In a 2020 study on transformative study abroad programs in emerging nations, Jotia and Biarima and Kurtz highlighted negative impacts on fragile host communities, while also stating that global South partners can feel excluded from key decisions, perceiving their role as merely hosting tours for the global North, replicating imperialistic and colonial patterns. With all of the above in mind, let's look at the second map in the series of international education trends. As we mentioned in an earlier lesson, 5 out of 7 international students were enrolled in educational programs in high-income countries. The United States of America, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada are often referred to as the 5 traditional destination countries for international degree seeking and can be seen marked in the darkest blue. Prominent countries of origin of international students in 2021 included China, 16% of all international students globally, India, 8%, shown in medium blue. Overall, more than 60% of international students were from middle-income countries of origin and can be seen as the lighter shades of blue. And let's not forget, this is just recruitment for degree-seeking programs. As discussed in the light of the previous map, and also if you can recall lesson 5.4 on study abroad and data from Erasmus, the same pattern cannot be observed for study abroad programs. Those exchanges usually take place global north to global north or global north to global south in some instances. Even within the context of global north, demographic differences emerge. As Chrissy Faupel notes in her article, Why Don't More Minorities Study Abroad? BIPOC students face different kinds of racial aggressions from both locals and peers alike. This can be particularly hard to navigate on top of everything else that comes with studying abroad, including language acquisition and cultural immersion. Moreover, students are likely to study abroad if they know someone who has done so. Thus, having parents or family members with international experience significantly increases a student's chance of participating in study abroad programs. A 2022 article by NAFSA elaborates on a virtual exchange program for Indigenous students called International Indigenous Exchange Consortium, the IIEC, helped participants experience international education for the first time, and the experience helped them expand their research. This underscores that students from non-traditional backgrounds, such as low-income families, can significantly benefit from study abroad programs. With this understanding of top source countries are those that send students, and the top destination countries or those that receive students, we want to look at another map, the third in the series. Here we see the distribution of risk of being affected by climate change. This map is from a study of Notre Dame ND Gain Index that assessed countries' vulnerability to climate change and how ready they are in the face of a warming planet. The study considered a number of factors beyond simply how will their weather coastlines change, but considered factors such as healthcare, food supply, and government stability. Now, key intersections with climate justice in the field of international education become clear. The maps are shaded in very similar ways nearly every time. The impact of colonialism is evident. Those most harmed or vulnerable in the shades of red are often excluded from this transformative power of international education. Those dark red countries also were the lightest on the wealth map and have contributed to climate change the least. Per the connection between wealth and emissions and what we learned in a previous lesson about emissions per capita. Additionally, while recruitment and diversification activities continue from source countries, these countries remain at risk. From the climate justice lens, we see that the global north benefits from international students through study abroad as well as degree-seeking programs, but has a reduced risk of needing to pay the price when it comes to impacts of climate change. Before we wrap up, let's end by considering a future student from sub-Saharan Africa. Does that student have the same access to study abroad opportunities as their wealthier counterparts? Are they more at risk of climate change, and have they contributed to the climate crisis the same way? What does an equitable approach look like moving forward for access and inclusion? This is the lens through which we want to view climate justice and its connection to our work. Now, this lesson has focused primarily on climate justice issues and student mobility. But in the next lesson, guest lectures from Dr. Sami Achasi and Dr. Savo Haleta shed light on how we work as practitioners. They will share their work about the disparity in climate justice of the practitioner experience. I'll see you again in a few lessons.